Hi, I'm Leslie Trogdon. Many of you have asked about some specific directions for your UFE project, so this recording is an attempt to help make this just a bit more clear for you. Here is our rubric that we've talked about in class, and the whole intent of this UFE project that we're trying to get a good idea of is that you have an understanding of 14 sections of this UFE process, and that the primary reason for even doing a UFE evaluation is that the results are used. And so when you write your paper, make sure that you're writing each of these 14 sections with the primary intended user in mind. Throughout the entire paper, we should see the word PIU everywhere. Kind of a funny word, but it's the truth for this particular project. So it includes 14 sections, starting with the executive summary and going all the way through the recommendations. We are also looking at an in-depth analysis, interpretation, judgment, and your recommendations, again, paying specific attention to the primary intended user. So we should not be writing this from the evaluation facilitator lens. It is written from the primary intended user lens. And again, we want to see deep analysis and application. We're also looking at style, of course, with APA, but mainly we're looking to see that we understand your writing. It's clear, it's descriptive, it's well organized, it's technical writing. It's typically done in the third person. So if you have more questions about that, be sure and talk to me about it. Mechanics, we're looking for no more than 2 errors in grammar, capitalization, spelling, and punctuation. So it's very important that you have someone else read your paper to catch some of those errors that just are not in our face, just because we're close to it. So make sure you have someone else take a look at it. Once you turn in your paper that on week 6 at the beginning of class, and you can email me your paper, we're each going to give about a 10-minute oral presentation which really summarizes your entire project. So you should have some kind of a PowerPoint, or you might use some other kind of technology or media that is much better than a PowerPoint. But that is worth 50 points. And the rest of this is worth 250 points. So your entire project is worth 300 points and really is your big rock project for this class. Here are the 14 sections of your UFE project, and I've tried to align them with the chapters in your book and the steps in your book. This paper includes 14 sections, so each of these 14 sections should be a header in your paper that you're going to write to. As you know, Patton's process is a 17-step process. We've combined several steps into one section of your paper, so that's why it's not 17 steps. So your first section of your paper is much like an abstract of a journal article. You're also going to do an abstract or an executive summary in your dissertation. This summarizes your entire project with your primary intended users in mind from start to finish. So it's a complete synthesis of your entire project and should be no more than a half page, maximum a full page. The next section of your paper, section 2, is going to be program organizational readiness. And here you're going to talk about the program's readiness to be evaluated and the organization's readiness to take on this evaluation. The third section of your project is evaluator readiness. And remember, there should always be a match between the evaluator being ready and the program and the organizational being ready. So talk about your competency in terms of an evaluation facilitator here. And it's okay to be honest with this particular section. And this aligns with chapter 2 in your book. The fourth section of your paper is where you're identifying your primary intended users. Why are they important? What kind of credibility do they bring to this? What is their role as a stakeholder? And why is this role important in the process? And this aligns to chapter 3 in your book. Sections 5 and 6 of your paper are both situational analysis. As you know, situational analysis, you as an evaluation facilitator, you're constantly analyzing the UFE evaluation process. So talk about kind of your situational analysis and what that process was like in this and the situation. Were there some negative situations that popped up or more positive that surprised you as an evaluation facilitator? But talk about that in Section 5, which is also Section 6, where you can talk about the program and the primary intended user's previous experience with program evaluation, because that contributes to your situation analysis. Do your stakeholders have experience with program evaluation, and how does that change their experience or their lack of experience? How does that change the situation with this program evaluation? The Section 7 of your project is where you're identifying the evaluation type. Is it a formative evaluation? Why? What makes it formative? In this particular section, don't just state that it is a formative or a summative or a developmental, but what are the reasons why? And why did the primary intended users identify this as a particular type of evaluation? Why did the primary intended users think that it be important that it be a formative or a summative? Section 8 is focusing your evaluation. As you know, we talked about many questions, particularly in Chapter 5, there are many questions that you could use that align to the evaluation type here. So talk about how the primary intended users identified those questions to address. What were the questions? Did you use some kind of a logic model to help map out their thinking to design this evaluation and focus the evaluation? Or was there some kind of a theory of change that helped focus the evaluation? And this really has to do with steps 7, 8, and 9 in Patton's book. The 9th section of your paper is the methods. So what methods did the primary intended users choose? Did they use a qualitative method? Did they use focus group? Did they decide to use a survey? And or did they decide to use document analysis? Remember, we talked about multiple methods make a good evaluation. And this aligns with chapters 10 and 11 in your book. Section 10 of your paper is all about data collection. So how did you decide as a team, as an evaluation team, to collect the data? And what data was collected? Again, we talked about multiple data points used in this evaluation, which aligns to chapters 12 and 13 of your book. Section 11 is different than Section 10, which is identifying the what. What kind of data are you collecting? How much data? Section 11 has to do with with the process that you put in place or your primary intended users put in place for data analysis. What was the process? Did the team decide that the evaluation facilitator perhaps would benefit the team from their analysis of the data? Or did you, as a primary intended user team, all schedule, did you divvy out the data to be analyzed? What was the process, and how were you able to talk about the patterns or the themes that were identified from that data analysis? Section 12 is still different than 10 and 11. Remember, Section 10 is the what data is collected. Section 11, what's the process for analyzing the data? Section 12, you're simply presenting the results and the findings. That's it. You're not making any recommendations. You're simply stating the facts based on the analysis of the data. What were the findings, which aligns to Section 15 in your book. Section 13 of the project is really, what does the team feel the use of those results and findings should be? How should we use these results? If it's a formative evaluation, should that be disseminated to all stakeholders, including the Board of Education? Or should those uses of those results be more for just the central office team? Should it be for grade level teams? Should it be with just administrators? Talk about that in section 13, which is steps 16 and 17. And then the last section of your paper is simply the recommendations that flow from that. So what are the recommendations? You'll notice that section 14 is kind of similar to the results and the findings, but not really. Based on these results and findings, what recommendations does the team have for this utilization-focused evaluation so that the results are useful and actually are used by stakeholders? So that explains the 14 components. I hope that this has given you a better understanding so that you might show some frustration where you are now on this continuum, especially how do I do this? That I hope that this makes it a little better so that you'll at least try, or you can do it, or I will do it, so that we can all get to the same results with, yes, I did it. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week.